Hey everybody. Today is May the 28th. I think it's Thursday 2020. And I have a story that I want to tell you guys. This is about matriarchal minded men. I've been thinking about doing this video for like a couple of months and I haven't done it. It's raining here today where I live. I got a little coffee, so I'm gonna go ahead and do it. So maybe a few years ago, I was in a city where some of my relatives are, right? And I used to live, if you look at this map, I used to live by, what was it, 170th, right? So over on the D and the B. And I lived close to Fordham Road too at one point over on the 4th. So I'm, visiting, seeing relatives, hanging out or whatever. And one of my relatives, I'm gonna just say he's my uncle. He's an older man. Let's call him Rico. So Rico finds out I'm in town and he hits me up. He's like, hey, what's going on? Why don't you come through to my old lady's house? Now, here's the story on Rico. Rico did about 21 years in prison. He went in when he was 16 or 17 years old. He got out after about 10 years and he went back and did about 12 years, something like that. So he spent the majority of his life in prison, but he's out now. And every time he calls me when I'm in the city, he's like, he wants me to come to his bitch's house. Sorry, you guys. I just got to tell the story like it is. He wants me to come to his bitch's house. Well, this has happened on multiple occasions. Like, he never wants me to come to his apartment or his place. It's always his bitch's place. He's always living with a bitch, right? And we know why that is, because a lot of times once you get that prison record, especially as a black male or an Israelite, people don't want to give you opportunities, and you know what I'm saying? It's hard for them to get jobs and pass credit checks because of their background. It just it destroys a lot of their lives for a season. So then a lot of times they're able to come up with different ways to create their own businesses that are legal, and a lot of them end up doing well after the fact. So this is what occurred on this day. So I'm minding my business, hanging out in the city, and my uncle called me. He's like, hey, why don't you come through and meet me at my old lady's place? I'm going to introduce you to her and we're going to chill. I was like, okay. Now, this was the same old lady. I've been to her house before, but I think they have moved to a new address or something. So since I had moved away, I wasn't driving my car. I was driving one of my relatives' car. One of my relatives that gave me their car to drive around when I was in town because they didn't want me to spend money on a rental, which I have no problem spending. To be honest with you guys, that's probably something I'll never do again. I would get a rental. I would just buy a rental. I wouldn't even bother, or I'd get a rental. I wouldn't bother using relatives' cars. But anyway, this day I was in one of my relatives' cars, and the car was it was some type of BMW or Benz. I think it was Mercedes Benz, and it was an older Mercedes Benz. It was silver, and he knew I was driving. My uncle knew that I was driving this car. So anyway, I was like, okay, I'll come stop by your house. He's like, yeah, head over now. Come over now. We here. I'm like, okay. So I get in the car and I head over there. And when I pull up, there's a group of people staring at me in a very strange way. It was one of those apartment complexes where there are like 2 apartments downstairs and 2 apartments upstairs. I pull up into the parking lot and I park, and it's like 5 or 6 black guys staring at me really weird. 4 or 5 black females staring at me really weird. And I'm wondering what's going on here. So all of a sudden, I get out of the car. All of a sudden, one of the girls comes up and hugs me. Now, this is a grown woman. This isn't a little kid. This woman is probably older than me. I was probably 28, 27. She was probably 30. She comes up and hugs me. I'm like, hey, what's going on? So she pulls back and I recognize her. It's a girl that I knew back in the day that I went to like middle school, I think it was, with. And she's like, oh, I'm so glad to see you. I haven't seen you in so long. I'm so glad you're here. And I was wondering, like, why are you glad I'm here? You barely even talk to me. You know what I'm saying? Even when we were in school, like, you didn't fool with me like that. She hung out with thugs and niggas in the streets. So, moving on. So I'm like, are you okay? I can tell she's been crying. So this is what the girl says to me. She's like, oh yeah, I just got raped. We thought you were the guy. I said, you thought I was the guy. How was that possible? So, and that reminds me, I'm going to tell another story about a girl named Jessica that I tried to give a ride home to. She says, you know, we thought you were the guy that raped me. I said, I just came here. What are you talking about? So she's like, I know, but he's driving a car just like yours. So that's why, you know, we thought that was him coming back. You know, and I had my brother out there, you know, they ready to fight him and everything, so on and so forth. And I said to the girl, I was like, wait a minute, you just got raped right now? She was like, yeah. And he just ran and got in the car and peeled off, and we thought he was you when you pulled up because you drive in the same car. And I said, does my uncle know about this? He was like, yeah. She was like, yeah, we told him. He's got his door open. So I look over and my uncle's sitting in his door waving me to come in. And everything came together for me. So this is what happened. The girl upstairs in my uncle's apartment complex just got raped. She ran downstairs and told him that. And he knew, and she told the description of the car that he was driving, what he looked like. And he knew that. And he turned around and called me and tells me to come over there in the same type of car that the alleged rapist is driving after this girl just got raped. Why would you even be inviting people over to your house when you know a bunch of police are about to show up? You know what I'm saying? Someone just got raped. I don't understand that. So it occurred to me like, wow, my uncle is trying to set me up for failure because he was willing to bring me here knowing this girl just got raped or allegedly got raped, and I'm driving the same type of car as he is. Why would you invite me to your house? I would never invite someone to my house, you know, if someone there just got raped or there was some type of crime committed. Like, I would not do that. I don't understand that behavior. So I was like, wow, my uncle's really trying to set me up for failure. Like, what the hell is wrong with him? Wow, this chick keeps texting me. All right, I'm like, he's trying to set me up for failure. What the hell is wrong with him? And then I got in my car and I peeled off and I took my ass back to where I was staying at. Because I was like, I have never trusted him since, because I don't understand why he would invite me to his house knowing I'm driving the same car as a guy that just possibly raped a girl. You know, the cops are about to come over there and everything. What was he? I don't understand what the point of this was. Moving forward. But I realized my uncle has a very matriarchal mind. He's willing to put any man at risk. He doesn't care because his life has been destroyed by his own bad choices and his own misfortune. So now, sorry you guys, I'm getting a bunch of texts all of a sudden. People haven't been texting me for hours. So anyway, the guy, now this is another story about a matriarchal minded person. So this happened when I was much younger. I was probably, what was I? Hold on just a second, you guys. All right, I just put it on airplane mode, so that'll take care of those texts. So, this happened when I was much younger. I was probably 22, 23 years old. And this is why I tell a lot of you young men, stop having soft hearts for females. A lot of these bitches are up to trouble, man. They are up to 100% trouble. They don't give a fuck about you or themselves. They don't understand consequences because they never had to pay any consequences. They just do shit and then deal with it. And they cry and they get off. So anyway, I was probably 22, 23 years old. And I was across country. And I just moved out of the Bronx, and I was at one of my cousin's house. There's a female cousin, and at the time we were hanging out. We were smoking weed. We were smoking marijuana, and it was probably 2 or 3 in the morning, right? And we were both super high, laughing. We're having a good time too. It was hilarious. So anyway, I was like, you know what? I think I'm gonna head home. And my cousin was like, okay, I guess I'll turn in and go to sleep. So I get my keys up. I say, see you later. I walk out. And when I walk out to my car, I see this 10-year-old boy. Mind you, it's like 2, 3 in the morning. And he's like riding a bike. And I asked him, I was like, what are you doing out here this late? And he tells me, oh, I got to ride my bike home. I got to get home. And I was like, well, where do you live at? And he told me he lived about 2 or 3 miles away. And I was like, I can't let this 10-year-old kid ride his bike home at 2, 3 in the morning for 3 miles, right? It was raining a little bit. It was getting kind of cold. It wasn't cold, but it was getting kind of cold. So I was like, you know what? I was like, do you want to ride home? He was like, yeah. But the car that I had, I couldn't take his bike. So I told him, you have to come back and get your bike tomorrow because I can't put your bike in the car. He was like, okay. So he throws his bike down and he gets in the passenger seat. And I turn on, the car and I pull out and we're headed, I'm headed towards my place and headed towards his house. He didn't live that close to me, but he lived like on the way to my house, or so he told me. So now I'm going to describe this kid. The kid was skinny, probably 5'5", 5'4", and had a little afro, right? And had on one of those tank tops, like a little wife beater. I remember like yesterday. This is some shit I'll probably never forget. And so he gets in the passenger seat and we pull off. I get to the edge of the parking lot of the apartment complex that I'm in, and I pull out and take a left onto the main road. I get to the stoplight. This kid taps on my radio and turns it up to the maximum volume, like the 57. It's so loud. I'm like, hey. Don't touch the radio. I turn the radio off. The light changes and we go. He turns the radio on again and turns it up to the max. I'm like, hey, what are you doing? Don't touch my radio. It's 2, 3 in the morning. I don't want to hear radio this loud. So I turn the radio down and I turn it off. So I cross that red light and we keep going. The next thing I know, the kid jumps up out of the passenger seat and he's in the back seat, like leaning over in the back seat. And I said, what are you doing while I'm driving? He's out of his seatbelt. Of course, I already told you I'm high. It's 2, 3 in the morning. He's out of his seatbelt. I'm like, what are you doing? So he's like, oh, I see diamonds in the back seat. I had just cleaned my car out like the day before, and I never had a diamond in any car I had. I said, what? He's like, I see diamonds in the back seat and pennies. I was like, there's nothing in the back seat. I just cleaned this car out. He's like, oh, no, I'm going to take these diamonds to wherever, he said. And so I was like, listen, you need to sit down. I'm driving. I don't want to get pulled over because you're all up, leaning over the seat, all in the back seat, doing all this stuff this early. Just sit down. The kid would not sit down. So I went and grabbed him by his shirt and I pulled him to the seat. I said, sit down. I'm going to put you out. So after I did that, the kid sits down in the seat. And all of a sudden, the boy says, you touched my breast. You tried to rape me. And I said, what? So the boy says to me again, you touched my breast. You tried to rape me. And I hit the brakes on my car so hard. And I said, what the fuck is wrong with you? I'm trying to give your ass a ride home. It's 2 or 3 in the morning. Why are you even out this late? I'm not trying to do anything to you but help you. But you know what? You're going to have to get the fuck out of this car. So the kid says, well, my name is Jessica and I'm from so-and-so. If you'll just take me, a little bit further, it'll be okay. I'm not going to say anything. I said, you're not going to say anything because there's nothing to say. I haven't done anything but try to give you a ride home. I made a mistake. Get the fuck out of my car. So then I realized it's not a boy. It's not a 10-year-old boy. It's a girl. And I've heard of this girl. This was my first time seeing this girl. I've heard of her before because she's mentally ill or she's crazy or something. And one day I think she was eating a girl's weave off of her head at the gas station. This girl is always caught up in like crazy situations. But I didn't know. it didn't look anything like a woman. I was 100% sure I was taking a 10-year-old boy home. You know what I'm saying? I was trying to help him out. So anyway, after the girl accuses me of trying to rape her and touching her breast, meanwhile, I thought this was a boy this whole time. You know, she's like, oh, I'm sorry. I won't say that. Just take me home. And I said, no, get the fuck out of my car right fucking now before I drag your motherfucking ass out of this car. So she gets out the car. I locked the door. She tried to get back in again, and I just pulled off and took my ass home. Now, all that being said to say, can any of you imagine what type of trouble would have come upon my life for just trying to help somebody out had I been pulled over by the police while this girl that looked like a boy kid was yelling out that I tried to touch her breast, that I was trying to rape her, and I was already high? Can you imagine all the trouble that I would have that I could have possibly gone through just because I tried to help somebody? I learned a very valuable lesson that day. I let these hoes walk the streets. I don't give rides like that. If I don't know you, it'll be very rare. I don't care if it's raining, if it's cold, I don't care. Because after having these certain experiences, I learned the type of world that I'm actually living in. So, all this being said to say, men out there and females, you got to be careful with a lot of these matriarchal minded people. Many of them are lunatics. They live in a world that doesn't exist. They'll say and do anything. There is no recollection of consequences paid. There is no regret. They just act out of whatever, out of spite, out of anger, I don't even know what they act out of. They just do shit and deal with whatever comes. So be careful out there. Think about what you're going to be doing. Don't just be having females in your car. Stop thinking you got to help all these women. Leave these hoes alone. A lot of them are walking the streets because that's what they deserve to do. So again, if I see a kid walking the street at 2 or 3 in the morning, am I going to pick that kid up? Absolutely not. If I don't know that kid, I will not pick his or her ass up. There's a reason why they're walking the streets at that time. I don't know what it would be, but I'm not going to find out. So I just want to warn you guys, be careful about who you hang out with. When people start showing you who they are, like my uncle did, accept it. Don't try to say, oh, well, this, that, and the third. Accept it and move forward. All right. If you have any questions or comments, post them below.